Okay, so in today's masterclass, I want to talk about rest periods between sets because this does come up a lot in terms of questions I get asked, and it is an underlying fundamental importance in regards to your training and your ability to progress each set. Because if you think of it this way, if you shorten your rest periods too much, okay, the next set could fail, or the next set you just can't lift as much because you haven't rested. Whereas if you lengthen your period too much and you get distracted, or maybe you're on your phone too long, and next thing you know, time's gone by, your body cools down. Therefore, you heighten the chance of injury after having worked up to your working set. You might have done, if it's a big deadlift, you might have done several warm-up sets to get to your working set, and then you wait too long, you cool down. That next set could be very hard, very challenging, but also you could injure yourself, and we don't want that. So, what is the rule of thumb when it comes to rest periods? Okay, so this is sort of where I like to gauge and direct my clients. Now you have to ignore the reflection here. All right, so in terms of isolation movements, right, if I come in nice and close, in terms of isolation movements, you want to look at around 30 to 90 seconds, okay? Really important, 30 to 90 seconds is again, a standard rule of thumb. Lateral raise, curls, push downs, calves, leg extension, anything that is utilizing a singular muscle group. Compound is obviously multiple muscle groups, isolation is a singular muscle group. So think about the movement. If we do a lateral raise, right? It's not that fatiguing. Even if you're lifting quite heavy and you're doing lots of reps, it's not that fatiguing. You can generally recover relatively quickly. Therefore, the rest period can be short. So don't get distracted, don't deviate from your movement. Allow that 30 to 90 seconds depending on how you're feeling. And rest periods are very much about feel. And this is why focus is so important. Because if you get distracted, if you see someone and go for a chat, if you get caught up on your phone looking at social media, replying to a message, watching videos or whatever, all of a sudden time goes by very fast and you miss that window of opportunity. You want to maximize your efficiency and you want to make sure that you are progressively overloading in the gym. And if you're wasting too much time or downtime with inconsequential things, you could be missing that opportunity. So 30 to 60 seconds, lateral raise, bicep curl, same thing. It's not exhausting, right? Yes, it exhausts the muscle, but overall you're not that fatigued. And for most people, these are sort of programmed towards the back end of a session. Curls, push downs in on the cable machine. Calves, again, it doesn't overly exhaust you. It exhausts the muscle, but not you. Leg extensions, bigger muscle group, but still fairly isolated, and you can obviously recover a lot quicker. So that is the rule of thumb. 30 to 90 seconds on an isolation. Now, if we move to compounds, think about the movement itself, because it does differ. And I've written here the rule of thumb, nice and close, 60 seconds to 5 minutes. Now that's a big time span, right? And I've given examples: deadlifts, squats, lunges, bench press. Okay, there's a multitude of compound movements, and it could depend on whether you're using a machine, whether you're using free weights, barbell, dumbbell. It just depends. Like if you do 50 walking lunges with weights, you're going to be pretty spent after that, right? So you might need that full 5 minutes to recover if you've got another working set at that. All right, 50 working sets of, how about a leg press where you're pressing, and say you've got like a high rep range of 20 to 30, which a lot of people do. It is exhausting. You've got to allow for the stimulus to die down, the lactic acid to die down. You've got to catch your breath. You've got to compose yourself. It takes time. You can't just jump back onto the leg press 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds later and expect to do the same again because you're heavily fatigued. It is exhausting. Okay, so you've got to manage and monitor that situation. It's all by feel. 60 seconds to 5 minutes is very much a broad gauge, but it depends on the movement. Deadlifts are probably one of the most energy expending movements that you've got because you're using so many muscle moves and so many muscle groups and so much energy to get a heavy deadlift up. Think about how it's done. Legs, core, back, arms, shoulders, glutes, everything is getting utilized except for probably chest on a deadlift if you're doing it correctly. So it'll be very exhausting, particularly if there's anything more than 3 to 5 reps. Like some people do 8 reps, 10 reps, 12 reps depending. Even 3 rep range on a deadlift. If it's at your 1 RM or close to, you're going to feel it afterwards. Therefore, you've got to have an extended period. Otherwise, the next set is going to be relatively challenging. Imagine walking up to a deadlift, second set in, you're still breathing heavy, you haven't composed yourself, your heart rate is going through the roof, and you try and set up to emulate the first set. It's probably not going to happen. So you need to sit down and take a couple more minutes to really recuperate and get ready for the next working set. Bench press, yes, it's more isolation, I suppose. You're getting a lot of chest, you're using arms, you're using shoulders as secondary muscles. If it's heavy, you're going to use obviously a lot of exertion. So you probably could fall within, say, 60 seconds to 2 minutes, somewhere around that range. Okay, so you've got to identify the movement with a certain time frame and also understand how you're feeling. It might be only a deload set or a deload week, therefore the exertion is not as high, so you can obviously get through it quicker. You might be supersetting, same thing applies. You might be able to get through it quicker. But when it's big compound movements, take your time, understand. But you do run the risk if the time goes too long that you're going to cool down, and you can't afford to do that because that heightens the chance of injury, as I said, but it also can impact your ability to get the next set up, and we don't want that. We don't want to impact performance in any way, shape or form, and we don't want to suffer from any injuries because you've cooled down. So manage it correctly. So as I said, rest periods, isolation first, 30 to 90 seconds. And again, don't scold me on this, don't give me all these sorts of comments. This is a rule of thumb and this is what I go on, okay? There's no set rule around this. It's very subjective to the individual. It's very subjective to their lifting ability and their experience and also the exercise they're doing. But 30 to 90 seconds on your isolation movements. Then you move to compound, 60 seconds to 5 minutes on your compound movements, depending on what it is. Give that a go. Try not to get distracted and make sure that you remain focused for the entire session. You're going to get through so much more work. You're going to be able to progressively overload on every given exercise at any given time because you're focused on rest periods. Rest periods are just as important as your working sets. Keep that in mind. Have a great day.